for what happens when they are implemented, the trajectory. At its heart, anti-discrimination defines people by various minority characteristics to thereby redefine the family. In fact, to smash the family, challenge of the anti-discrimination agenda is that it is all-encompassing. It usually starts in the area of employment or housing, and then it expands to the provision of goods and services. However, where the agenda is most advanced, like in the United Kingdom, it then tries to take over how we educate our children, how we run our churches and define our beliefs. And it even tries to censor our speech and challenge the very beliefs that we hold as Christians. The mainstreaming of anti-Christian bias and anti-Christian discrimination into the cultural fabric of the United Kingdom. Christian orthodoxy on the subject are vilified as hateful and backward and irrational and not with the times. This also includes individuals, employers, organisations and even government actors going out of their way to speak lovingly but strongly and clearly and in truth into the public arena at this time, at the very beginning that these laws begin to take shape and place in the society of South Korea. If you take away anything from today's talk, let it be this. Being homosexual and LGBT campaigning are not synonymous. Being homosexual is about how you live out your life. LGBT campaigning is about political activism and worldview. The outworking of these ideological positions has been mainstreamed into both education and culture. The entire premise, for example, behind the mandatory LGBT education of children in the United Kingdom is that it seeks to deconstruct heterosexual normativity. If ever there was a symbol for how badly the anti-discrimination agenda has failed Christians and what an existential threat it poses to religious freedom, he performed exemplary service as a lay magistrate in Kent for 15 years, frequently presiding over adoption cases. 2 gay men wanted to adopt the child, and Richard said that the child would do best to stay with the married mother and father. Although this conversation was in the judge's retiring room and was personal reflections, and although the child was placed with that same-sex couple, Richard Page's comments were secretly reported to the judicial disciplinary process. Another case, Eunice and Owen Johns. After having taken a break from fostering for a few years, they were then required to go through a new screening process, were rejected as foster parents because they were asked about their views on homosexuality and whether or not they would be able to encourage a child if they were expressing confusion or feelings of being gay. Please bear in mind that the age of the children that Eunice and Owen Johns were adopting was 6 and 7, and they were being asked to promote homosexuality to children in their care. The Human Rights Commission children ran the risk of infecting the children with Christianity. It's a little bit like speaking of Christianity like it's coronavirus, but then slowly expands into every sphere of our lives. However, with the introduction of the Equality Act in 2010, requiring schools at the secondary level to teach LGBTQI elements in all schools, including Christian schools, with no right of opt-out. Primary schools are also under heavy pressure to engage in LGBT issues. Again, what I want to say to you in South Korea is keep your children safe. Understand what it is that they are being taught. If you don't want these programs in your schools, ensure that they don't ever enter your schools, that this does not become part of the curriculum. This needs to be a stated campaign aim of anything that you can do. In fact, currently there is a movement in our nation to ban so-called conversion therapy. What does this mean? Well, actually telling someone that they can turn to Christ, they can give up their sexual behaviour, they can give that up, they can leave it at the foot of the cross. That, the sort of terms that we're hearing in Parliament and even in the church is spiritual abuse for telling people that they can change. Similarly, the Christian Legal Centre has supported an amazing maths teacher called Joshua Sutcliffe. He was sacked for saying, "Well done, girls," to a group of girls. But one of the girls identified as a boy. The parent of the child complained about Joshua Sutcliffe, and Joshua Sutcliffe was put into isolation as a maths teacher in the school every day. It's very subtle. Christians from the outset are made to look like people who are old-fashioned, fuddy-duddy, backward, irritable, irritating, nasty. The gay icon is made to look modern, beautiful, attractive, tolerant. But in fact, the LGBTQI agenda is deeply intolerant, and it absolutely punishes. It can't stand those that will not stand with it. The church goes silent and everyone goes silent. So most people don't get punished because they're just silent. Those that dare to speak get punished, and that makes more people silent. I really hope and pray that South Korea will understand this, to learn from what has happened to us. People willing to stand up for the truth, no matter what the consequences. But people to understand what comes and to resist it from the outset. Do not be naive. Do not be naive. Do not, in fact, have the kind of the Christian naivety. Because it's your children. It's your children's lives that will be at stake. I thank you for taking a brave stand. God bless South Korea.